2023 has been an amazing year for movies. I personally have enjoyed this much more than years past because of one specific reason. I'm a participant in reviewing and talking about movies. I started my YouTube channel in May of this year, and since then I've reviewed 34 movies on my channel. But I've seen 67 movies this year. So what movies made the final cut? Let's talk about that. Before we get started, there's one very specific thing I need to mention. This is my top 10. It's not your top 10. So I want you to keep that in mind as I go throughout this list, because I can guarantee you my list won't match up with yours unless by some miracle it does. John Wick Chapter 4 was an incredible ending to the John Wick story, if it actually is. Incredible action scenes. Keanu was going through this entire movie using his gun fu, shooting up the club. Not in that way, but shooting up several clubs. I'm sorry. I'm terrible. But shooting up several... I'm a child. Shooting up several establishments throughout this entire film. You also had Donnie Yen here, who played a blind assassin, a blind killer, who was amazing in this movie, using doorbell ringers and all kinds of different things in order to take out his enemies. This movie had amazing fight scenes, and I just loved being immersed in this world. And like I mentioned right at the beginning of this was a perfect ending for the John Wick story. Now, I actually do hope that they keep it as an ending, because if you undo the ending of this, it makes it very hard to do what you did. I'm trying to be spoiler free. It makes it very hard to do what you did in the end again, because you've already used that card. You can't use that card more than once. So that's why I kind of hope that it's the last one, but either way, it's one of my favorite movies of this year. That's why it lands right into this spot. Creed 3 was Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, and continuing with a character that he's played for, I want to say, maybe like 10, 15 years now. Creed has been an amazing series, and Michael B. Jordan picked right back up where Creed 2 left off, and giving us an incredible boxing movie that's more than about boxing. This movie is about heart and relationships and how different things that happen in our past can impact our future. It's also about a man reconciling his own emotions. We've seen over the course of 3 Creed movies how Adonis has struggled to maintain his own self-confidence and self-worth, as well as learn how to treat the people around him better, right? The way that he talks to his wife, the way he talks to Rocky, the way he's fighting with his internal demons have all been the shining points of this series, as well as, of course, the fights. And the big props I want to give to Michael B. Jordan in continuing this series, making his directorial debut, is that he made it his own. He didn't just follow the formula of previous Rocky or Creed movies. He took his inspiration from the things that he enjoyed growing up, namely anime. You can see that in the fight sequences throughout this entire movie, especially the final fight versus his biggest rival, played by Jonathan Majors, Damian Anderson. Jonathan Majors does an excellent job playing the foil to Adonis Creed, and he brings a lot of character and depth into this movie as someone that's not just a one-dimensional baddie, but actually has some real legitimate history with Adonis's character. This movie has a lot of heart, has a lot of dope action, and as to me, the second best movie in the Creed franchise. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem was an absolute blast. I cannot believe how great this movie turned out to be. I'm over the moon over the characters, especially the turtles, who were for the first time actually teenagers. They put the teenage in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. They had those jokes. We outside. You had April O'Neil as well, voiced by Ayo Edebiri, as well as Jackie Chan playing Splinter and Ice Cube in the role of Superfly. The kids who are cast in these roles, absolutely amazing. The action. Let's talk about the action real quick. The action scene, especially the very first big action scene, when they're going to interrogate the big 5 mob bosses from across New York, that was one of the best action scenes I've seen this year, because you got to see each turtle star in their own scroll along like video game. Remember the video games from back in the day, like Sega Genesis and all those other kind of games where arcade games essentially was just a scroll along thing where you just go across the screen, taking out all the bad guys. That's exactly how this was shot. Let's not even forget The music, the Wu-Tang Clan, amazing in this great movie. So I really hope that it gets a sequel because it absolutely deserves it. I'm pretty sure that it is getting a sequel. Can't wait to see these turtles again. Tom Cruise does it again with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 7. This was a movie I was really looking forward to, and I'm so glad that it delivered. Not to say that the Mission Impossible movies before have not delivered, because out of the 7 of them now, 6 of them have been great, and even Mission Impossible Part 2 was enjoyable to me. With this new addition, we have Haley Atwell as well as Asai Morales playing pivotal characters in this movie. Ethan Hunt is going up against AI this time, which is a really dope concept. And with Asai Morales' character of Gabriel acting as that AI's avatar, it just presents a really cool cat and mouse where they're trying to get yet another MacGuffin. But the difference between MacGuffins in the past and this MacGuffin is that no one knows what this MacGuffin does. The movie ends with an incredible train sequence with Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell's character trying to survive as the train is falling off of a bridge. It's one of the best action scenes that you'll see out of this year. Past Lives is a movie I literally just watched today before recording this video, and it blew me away. Maybe this is recency bias, maybe not, but this movie is just an incredible, number one, acting display as well as incredible directing display, but most importantly, the story is phenomenal. And it's a very human story. It's a story about what we do when it's time to move on in our lives and letting go of what could have been to accept what actually is. The dialogue in this film is so incredibly well written and well executed. It's one of those movies that makes you reflect on your own life and the choices that you've made. So Past Lives, I would 100% recommend. Like I said, I just saw it today, so this is kind of a mini review because I'm not going to put
something. Can you say it again?
Highly recommend this movie. Like I said, I'm not going to put out a review for it because for me, 2023 is done. But even so, this movie made it into the top 10 at the last possible second, and it deserves to be there. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. All I need to say is Lila and Teeps and Floor and Rocket are going to fly into the great unknown. This movie is an emotional roller coaster as well as a great space opera type of action superhero movie. I love this movie from start to finish, especially the journey of Rocket Raccoon, who James Gunn has said before, this entire Guardians journey is Rocket Raccoon's journey, and I'm glad that we finally see what he meant by that fleshed out here. Let me not forget one of the best villains the MCU has ever given us in the High Evolutionary. This character is sadistic, he's crazy, he's blowing up his own planets, he doesn't see how his own God complex is proving his very thoughts about himself wrong. You fail over and over again, and yet you want to call other creatures inferior. You're the inferior one. This movie is amazing. It shows the growth of our characters from the very first movie to the third movie and caps off the best trilogy in the MCU. Yeah, that's right, I said it. The best trilogy of the MCU. Godzilla Minus One was an absolute shock of how good this movie was. I was just surprised by the amount of care that I had for the human characters. I never care about human characters when watching a Godzilla movie, and this movie made that happen. And we have really deep subjects such as grief and shame and honor and what it means to have a found family when you have gone through shared tragedy. And the movie not only does that, but it does deliver on the big guy, which is Godzilla, having his atomic blast create mushroom crowds and destroy entire cities in one go. This dude is a menace during this entire movie, and I was so happy that I got a chance to witness it in theater because it's my first Godzilla movie I've seen in theaters. And the fact that this movie was made on a $15 million budget is incredible to me. It looks so much better than movies that have had a $250 million budget. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Godzilla Minus One is a +1 at any date to the movie theater. I don't know what that means. You figure it out. The Holdovers is a new Christmas classic. It stars Paul Giamatti and Dominic Sessa, who's new to the scene. This is his first role, as well as Divine Joy Randolph, who this is not her first role. She's a vet in the game and she kills it in this movie. She might have the best performance in this movie as a grieving mother who just lost her child and is dealing with the first Christmas after that loss. This movie is about a teacher who feels that he's been screwed over for the majority of his life by privileged people. And because of that, he's very hard on privileged students that he has coming in and out of his high school. And in this particular movie, some of those kids are not able to go home, so they are the holdover. So he has to stay with them and watch them during the course of the Christmas vacation that they should be having. And they form some incredible bonds during the course of this movie. I could not recommend this movie more. It's funny, it's deep, it's emotional, it's all the things, and it's a great addition to your Christmas movie rotation. I had The Iron Claw as my number one movie of the year for quite some time before revisiting the movie that actually is going to be the number one movie of my top 10. But before we even get to that, let's talk about this amazing movie. And let's start off by talking about the amazing Oscar-worthy, in my opinion, performance of Zac Efron. He is incredible in this movie, not only from the way that he portrays the character, not only in his physical transformation to play the character of Kevin Von Erich, but also the acting. He is a deeply emotional, reserved character that shows throughout the entirety of this film, and also acting alongside great performers like Jeremy Allen White, who portrays another one of the Von Erichs in this super tragic movie that I probably won't watch again for another 10 years. Even without high rewatchability just because of the subject matter, it still stands as one of the best movies of this year. And I would be hard pressed to remove points from it, so to speak, because of its lack of rewatchability. It's not that it's a bad movie, it's that the subject matter is so depressing that why would you want to revisit that? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. This story of the Von Erichs is told very well. Now let's get to the number one movie of my top 10. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is my number one movie of the year, hands down. This movie just does something to my soul, just like the first Into the Spider-Verse movie. The story about Miles growing up and realizing that he needs to take hold of his own life because everyone's telling him what he should and shouldn't do, but nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like, this movie is an incredible journey for this character. When we see him and his mom have that conversation in the beginning of the movie of, yo, you always have a home here, and don't ever let anybody tell you that you don't belong. And then we fast forward towards the end of the movie where Miguel O'Hara is telling him, you're a mistake. You don't belong here. You were bitten by accident. That's not even your spider. No, I belong here. This is who I am and this is who I'm supposed to be. I'm Spider-Man, just like the rest of y'all. I feel like that line was not only delivered towards Miguel O'Hara, but through the writers, it was delivered towards the people who said Miles didn't deserve to exist. You can act brand new if you want, but when Miles first came on the scene, people were upset that this new Spider-Man was taking over for Peter Parker in the Ultimate Comics, and now everybody loves Miles Morales, or at least everybody should, because he's an amazing Spider-Man, if you will. Even though I would say I like Into the Spider-Verse more than this one, probably because it's just the first one, and I literally cried in the theater in my first 5 seconds into the movie when he's singing, like all that. Amazing. I was just happy to see a Black and Puerto Rican character on the screen. Representation matters. Go argue with the door. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is my number one movie of 2023. So that's it, guys. That's the list of my top 10 movies of 2023. Like I said in the beginning, this is my list. It's not necessarily your list. Your list can be completely different and completely valid. Let me know in the comments what you think about my list, and I'll talk to you guys next time.